as we age, I don't think there are too many of us who wouldn't say that looking back on decisions they've made in their lives, there are probably many things they would do differently. And that certainly pertains to me and what I've learned in my 8 years learning to play the harp. I'd like to share one of the biggest regrets that I have about how I started to learn to play the harp. Welcome to the Primetime Harpist channel. If you're a regular listener and watcher, welcome back. And if you're new here, I'd like to welcome you to a place where I share things I've learned as an older adult, starting something new in my later years. My name's Kathy Lowe. I've been playing the harp for about 8 years now. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, especially the one where I talked about my 3 biggest mistakes, I talked about how I wish I hadn't been in such a hurry to learn the harp and to learn songs on the harp. I was an experienced musician. I could read music well, and I played several other instruments. So I got this harp unexpectedly, and that's another story I've talked about in the past as well. I got this harp. I hadn't thought about learning to play the harp other than to kind of fantasize about it through the years, and always looked at harpists in performances that I attended and thought, oh, it sounds so beautiful. I wish I could play that. But I hadn't expected to get a harp, so I had no plan. And based on prior experience with music and learning to play instruments, I figured I just needed someone to get me going, and then I could work on my own. Big mistake, but that's what I did. I did have one teacher very briefly to start me off, worked on my own for several months, found another teacher for about a year, and then without planning to stop lessons, it kind of happened out of necessity because we had a lockdown during the COVID pandemic, and I could have taken Zoom lessons, but at the time, none of us, at the beginning anyway, weren't very used to Zooming, and it didn't seem like it was going to work out. So I went off on my own again, and as time went by, I found many resources online that I'll talk about in future videos. I've learned a lot online from various harpists, some of whom have formed communities that I belong to and continue to participate in. But in the beginning, especially once the lockdown started, it became my goal to see how fast I could learn new songs. That was really all I was thinking about. And of course, in the beginning, the songs are very simple and I could learn them quickly. So I recorded every single thing I learned. And for quite a while, I put out a new song every single week. And I shared it first on Facebook and then on YouTube. And that's what started me off on this YouTube journey and refining what I've done with this channel ever since. But now, here I am, 8 years in, and I've started to think more about things that are holding me back. And of course, the major thing would be not getting a firm foundation for my playing when I started, not having a teacher who would insist that I use proper hand position, that I think about how to produce the best sound on the harp, that I think about how I was sitting, how high my chair should be, how I was holding my body, how I could practice without injuring myself. None of these things were in my mind at all. Later on, they came to be very much in the forefront of my thoughts. But at that time, my goal was learn to play songs on the harp and be able to share them. Now I've kind of taken a pause, and I've even decided to focus much more on the musicality of my playing than on the quantity of pieces that I learn and share. So I signed up for a course on musicality where we're going to focus mainly on getting a beautiful sound from your harp, playing with expression, not on learning notes and learning a song quickly. We've been asked to pick a song we already know that we want to make better. So that gave me the idea of going back. I looked back through all my different playlists, and I have one playlist called Fingertip Pieces, which are pieces that I intend to keep fresh and be ready to play for people at a moment's notice. That's my intention. In reality, I rarely go back and play them because I've been too busy trying to learn new things and spending my time working hard on new pieces. But I looked at my Fingertip Pieces list. I looked at a playlist of favorites. I looked at a private list of my own that is called Revisit, of things I started and wasn't satisfied that I'd brought them as far as I could, and intended to go back to those at some point. I've decided to just not take on any more new pieces. I'll have one for you this month that I have been working on. And what I also will have for you are one or two other pieces that I have learned and shared and recorded in the past. But I want to go back now as I take the musicality course and make those better. So I'll be sharing one or two of those with you. And it just so happens that all the ones I picked are popular songs that you would recognize. So that will be the theme for this month, will be popular songs on the harp. And so I'll put together also a compilation of all the ones I've learned. But right now, my intention is to be very intentional in how I practice and think about those foundational things that I have glossed over and pay attention to my hand position and all the other things that are important that I've mentioned before. I'm going to really work on that, as well as producing a beautiful tone and sound on my harp and concentrating not so much on the right notes as on the expression that I play those notes with, the dynamics, the tempo, and just the emotion that I hope to convey through my playing. Before I end, I'd like to share with you just a little clip from the new piece that I've been working on lately. And I've actually played this piece on my single course harp. In fact, I made my own arrangement of it. It's Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now. But recently I did find an arrangement by Anne Crosby Gaudet for the Double-Strung harp. And so here's a little clip of that one. And later this month, I'll have the whole video posted so you can hear and watch the whole thing. So what about you? Have you been playing the harp long enough that you regret some of the decisions you made in the beginning? I'd like to hear about those if you'd be willing to share those with me. And have you been able to correct any of those mistakes that you made early on? If so, how did you do that? And what are your goals for continuing with your harp playing? Please share with me and all of us in the comments below. I'd also like to mention again that this YouTube channel And the topics that I talk about here are also in the Primetime Harpist podcast. And I know that many of you listen to these in the podcast. I'd like to thank you for following me in that way and welcoming you here, as well as those who watch on YouTube. So thank you to all who watch or listen. And thank you to those who provide me with so much positive reinforcement and so many lovely comments. And some of you have shared deeply personal struggles in your harp journey. And I really appreciate your openness to sharing those things in this community. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and share with those you know who might be interested or thinking about what they're going to do in their later years for a new hobby. Maybe it's learning the harp, and maybe they'd like to watch and listen to some of my ideas here. So once again, thank you for being here. Remember, you're never too old to learn a new skill. You're never too old to learn to play the harp. So for those of you who are on this learning journey with me, keep on keeping on, and happy harping.